Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome to another episode of A Feast of Films Theatre with your hosts, Matthew Ayalew and Ethan R. Hill. How's that? That was good?
Yeah. Classic. Classic.
Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome back to another episode of A Feast of Films. I'm Ethan R. Hill, and with me, as always, is...
Matthew Ayalew, what's going on, my fellow movie fans?
Here we go. We're on another episode, season 2, but also episode 23. I don't think we figured out the episode labeling, and I still get confused by it.
It's
because it is season 2.
It is,
but
well, we're continuing the episode change, so just think about it as The Mandalorian.
But Matt, what about those who don't have Disney Plus?
Well, too bad for you, because Disney Plus is a lot of fun.
And only $7.99, and totally not a sponsorship.
Definitely not a sponsorship.
But if you're listening, which they're not, Disney's not listening, but if they are, hey, how's it going? You want to sponsor us? We'll talk about Disney films.
You know how many views we got in our last video?
A lot. That's better than better than none.
That's better than people who only get one. So,
hey, and that
and
must
to be
mean
fair,
Matt,
3 episodes ago, it was like 500, but that was a bunch of weirdos.
That's the thing. We made fun of the weirdos, and then
Now they're
suddenly
gone.
our views dropped off.
They're just like, oh, I see how it is.
Oh,
you don't want us watching just because we come from weird sex videos.
Well, I'm gonna go watch more weird sex videos.
I don't have to listen to you guys. Seriously, though, we went from 500 to 40 to 1 or 2. I can't remember.
You guys aren't even my kinks anyway.
Target audience, baby. Target audience.
That's hilarious. Maybe YouTube picked up on us and they're like, "Oh, these guys are bullying people."
Well, I might have also changed a couple settings in that last video, so it's probably why.
So it's you.
Yep.
Self-sabotage.
Well, we need to, switch things up a little bit.
We need to kind of clear out that. Hey, Matt, we're up to 4 views. That's a win.
Yeah. What did they say? Drain the swamp?
Yeah, I guess so.
Something like that.
I drain that swamp. Some weird thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that means. Anytime I think swamp, I just think Shrek. So like, but what were they doing in our swamp? I think that's the real question we need to be asking.
And why do we have to drain it? Why can't we just kick them out? That's also the problem. That's like, just kick them out.
Well, where can we go?
Oh boy. I'm a donkey, Shrek. I'm a donkey.
I'm a real boy.
I would love to do an Eddie Murphy impression right now, but it's like my kid's sleeping in the room right behind me, and I'd have to get like really like into it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you don't just half do an Eddie Murphy impression.
No, but I want to. It's just
you can do a quiet one with the inflections, but your tone isn't quite.
It's not quite there because you need the energy behind it.
Honestly, that's a lot of impressions. So like you need the volume.
Yeah.
Like it just otherwise it's not quite there.
Well, because I think half the time too, especially when talking about impressions, it is an exaggeration of that individual. Even when you're doing even though they themselves are an exaggeration of whatever the character they're playing, the impression is also a slight exaggeration on top of that. So it's an upscaling. It's just continually
going
going
in
up.
Film school where basically that's what happened is I was doing a Chris Walken impression.
Oh, I'm
and
sure
a guy
that
walks in the room. Well, a guy walks in the room and he's like, "Hey, who's doing a Christopher Walken impression?" I'm like, "It's me." And he's like, "It sounds like an impression." And I'm like, "Yes, because it's an impression." Well, it doesn't sound real. No, because it's an impression.
You're like, listen, sorry, man, I wasn't going for lifelike Christopher Walken. That when you walked in the room, you were like, "Oh my God, it's Christopher Walken."
Christopher Walken.
Then you're like, no, never mind. It was just Ethan, who sounds exactly like Christopher Walken. But
he knew
do a very well Jesse Eisenberg. You could do that.
That's not even intentional. It just happens.
It just happens.
That's just my voice.
Especially like when you speed it up a little bit, it's like very because it like ups the tone just a bit.
Well, I
very
pause
Jesse
at the same
Eisenberg.
places,
and
I pause in the same places he does.
John Mulaney. Sometimes when you do like your little like sarcastic voice, I'm like, that is so John Mulaney, and I can't tell if you're doing it on purpose or if that's just you again.
There's a horse in the hospital.
See, like that is damn near spot on. It's really really good. So I don't know what people are complaining about.
This one time me and
I'm
Pross were
Christopher
driving
Walken,
around.
man.
Oh no, it's Chris
Yo,
Walken.
it's Christopher Walken.
I'm
like
walking
the
out of
color.
here.
Orange. I need a cowbell. I got a fever, and the only cure is more cowbell. It's more cowbell.
Then there's the Goldblum one, which that's okay, but that's all right. It's all right. We were driving once, and I started yelling and trying to do an impression, and he didn't know who I was, so eventually I yelled, "I'm Paul Giamatti!" And he's like, "Well, I'm glad you specified who you were, because I had no idea who you were." So I can't do a Paul Giamatti impression.
It's like when you do man, why am I blanking right now?
Which act are you thinking of? Is he...
Oh, Sean Connery. Like anytime you do
yeah,
Sean Connery, it's like most of the time it's like Sean Connery. Like it's mostly saying his name most of the time.
Well, that's how you get it with most people.
You have to get it
You
going
say
first.
their name.
You're Sean Connery. And you get going from there.
I'm on the Schwarzenegger. I'm the governor, and that's what I do.
That's what I
That's
do.
basically-
Dal, get to the chopper. Dal.
Most of the time, it's either you say one of their famous catchphrases or you say their name, and that's kind of
I'll
how
be
you get
back.
it.
Yeah. Then then you just take it and go from there. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I totally agree. But like Donald Trump, you can just generally just talk about anything you want. It's pretty funny. You just have to like move your eyes and make your face really pouty, and then it just works. It just
Matt,
works.
I think are you
It's gonna
getting
go
larger?
away, just like a miracle in the spring. It'll be here one day, then it'll be gone.
You know what's
Just like
been
a
great?
miracle.
He hasn't
And the
been
more
in
you
the
do
news
it, the
for
more
like
you
weeks.
do it, the better it gets because just you get even deeper into it. But I agree. I mean,
I haven't seen a headline about Donald Trump in a while.
like a week. Well, everyone's still talking about how crap he was, which is fair enough. But except all the people listening, no, he's not crap. Yes, he is.
Well, there goes our 3 viewers.
Yeah, they're just like, we're out of here. We had some pervs and a couple Trump supporters. Now they go.
What's the difference?
Actually, no, they.
It's the difference?
Man,
The same.
no.
Hey man,
here's the thing. I think some.
I
of
have
them,
my opinion.
I think some people. I think it's
some
hard.
of them
You
are
can't-
good people.
Well, no, you can't put like a blanket statement over everybody, right? Like humanity is a little bit more complicated than that. But the ones who are like super racist and carrying around Confederate flags and Nazi flags and Proud Boys, those are kind of ones where you're like, well, I'm pretty sure I can sum you up without having to try too hard.
Some of them are good people. They're not sending us their best.
We are both.
And he
we're
was
very
talking
good people
about...
on both sides. Okay,
Yeah.
we love you all.
Okay.
Go back home, but seriously, don't go home. Stay in the capital. That's now your home. Stay there. It'll be great. We'll have a
I'm just
wonderful
not gonna-
time. I'll order cheeseburgers and everything. It's gonna be wonderful.
It's one of those things of like, I knew I wasn't gonna miss it, and I haven't. There was nothing where I'm like, oh man.
Wow,
Like that wasn't a moment of like, oh man, I haven't heard from the ex-president in a while. It was like hey, oh my gosh,
Wow,
we haven't heard from him in a while.
A president who's
Oh.
not trying to blow up the world every 10 seconds. But to be fair, January has been a very, very busy week. And I know we don't talk a lot of politics here, and we shouldn't, but I just saw a post the other day that like the 4 Wednesdays in January, one was the Capitol riot, the next one was the impeachment, I think, and the next one after that was the inauguration, and then yesterday was freaking GameStop, man. Like, all the trade wars going on. I was like, damn, 2021's off to a busy start, man. We got a lot of stuff to get caught up on apparently because
But like so far,
damn.
and knock on wood, so far nothing as crazy as 2020. It's been a lot of little things. The craziest was the Capitol.
The Capitol riot was pretty crazy, but I like to think of that as a spin-off of 2020. Like, it's like, obviously, the year changes. You're not going to, like, fresh start everything, but we still had one more thing to go.
Yeah, we got to have a nice
After that.
transition period.
Yeah,
like, we got to...
You got to have that season finale.
You can't...
Well, basically what happened was, it was like any TV show, where you're watching the season finale, and the really good shit never happens. And they're like, check our season premiere to get that. And you're like, God damn, I gotta wait all summer. So we wait all Christmas, and then we're rewarded with our season premiere of the Capitol riots.
Well, the other
was
way to
exciting.
look at it too is also
Shorter
it's
season
when
though,
you're
'cause it
it's when
wrapped
you're in
up
a
pretty quick.
speeding it's when you're in a speeding car. You don't just slam on the brakes and stop immediately. You got to slow down gradually.
In this
And
case,
that's what this is. And it like,
well, in
it's
this case, it wasn't kind of slowing down gradually. It was like throwing a hand grenade in front of the car, driving
I'm
over
talking
the
about-
car. The car blows up and you flip on your side. Now we're stopped. But yes,
I mean, that's fair. That's actually that's a fair point.
I get what you're saying. But
I was going to say, like, this is the beginning where we started to slow down. We've started to slow down.
No, well, pretty much what we've got now is like we got a tow truck came, pulled our ass out of the ditch. Now we're back on the road, somewhat.
The nice
And
thing about
we're putting money on GameStop.
2020 in hindsight, I think, is that no
We
matter
got to make
what
a
happens
podcast.
now, well, I mean, there's that, but no matter what happens now, we're not going to be surprised. There's no more. Like, I was thinking, like, short of aliens. I'm like, no, aliens show
You know
up,
what?
and we just be like, okay,
This makes
is,
sense,
This
man.
is life. All right. Like,
Honestly, if aliens would have showed up last year, I'd have been like, no, this makes sense. It's about right.
like name
Sounds
a
about
thing
right.
that could happen that would catch you off guard, and I can't think of a darn thing.
Dude, if an asteroid came down and blew up the Earth tomorrow, I'd be like, no, that's about right.
Like,
for real.
I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't be like surprised.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be like, oh man, I didn't feel like dying today, but I mean, I guess whatever.
Have you heard about the theory? Like, this is, I don't know if it's considered a conspiracy theory, but like the theory that aliens aren't actually aliens, like the little gray men and stuff like that are actually time traveling humans.
Oh no,
So like,
well, that's no
so the,
fun.
No, like, so if this is the wild thing. The gray aliens, like the little, like the short aliens, big heads, big eyes, gray
Yeah.
skin. The theory is that they're from so far in the future that we've all, like, races don't exist anymore because we've all, like, just basically bred together.
Right.
So all of our skin turned gray.
Okay.
Then our pinkies became useless, so the pinkies fell off, and that's why we only have 3 fingers. And then we got smarter, so that's why our heads got bigger. Something happened with the atmosphere we couldn't see as well, so our eyes got bigger to let in more light. Like, there's this wild, like, noses became useless, so they fell off, and that's why we just have the nostrils. Like, there's a whole theory about how that's what humans are going to look like
man.
in hundreds of thousands of millions of years, and they finally achieved time travel and came back.
Why would you
And
come
that's-
back? And then they get off in 2020 and they're
history.
like, oh shit.
Notice how there wasn't many UFO sightings in 2020.
I think there was still a couple, wasn't there?
I don't feel like it was as big. Well, I mean, like, it wasn't as big of news, but
As
like,
many. Well,
yeah,
no,
you
there
see,
was that.
maybe-
There was that one like Air Force dude who was like, "Yo, us in China, and I think it was like Russia. We got this space program, and there's like a whole alien council on Mars, and we were gonna reveal it to people, but then the council was like, you guys are crazy. That ain't happening yet. You all ain't ready for this space thing."
I mean, that makes sense though.
Which
Like, that's-
again, I was like, that seems far fetched because no one's been to Mars yet, so that's a hard sell. Unless we're Skyping. We're probably Skyping in with the like rovers. Like we just drive to the meeting and we Skype in. Yo, what's up? What's happening? How y'all doing? And then they're like, why do we even let these guys who let these guys in here again? Damn it. They just try and block us up, but we go through like the vents and stuff, or we just show up. We just like sneak through and like, what's up, guys? And they're like, God damn it, who let the humans back here again? Come on.
See,
Beef up
that's
the
the-
security. What's going on? This is
How
a
come-
multi-planetary council, and these guys are getting in with a rover? Come on.
I was thinking, wait a second. They could coordinate an attack on the Capitol building, but they couldn't coordinate one to Area 51? That fell through because no one showed up? What's going on, guys?
I
What's
think,
going on?
Well, there's clearly more racist than alien enthusiast. That's the problem.
I mean, like, technically they could be considered the same. Xenophobia, you know? Yeah, just saying.
Oh man, it's been a crazy week.
It's been a crazy life.
And we're just getting started.
I've referred to myself as 30 in the last 2 years, or 2 years, in the last 2 weeks, And every time I do, I just get sick to my stomach, and I'm like, nope, I'm still 29. I'm still 29. I still got a couple months.
I refer to myself as 30 in the last couple weeks, and I get sick to my stomach, and then I realize I am 30.
I'm thinking my birthday, I'm going to be 25. I think when I turn this year, I'm going to turn 25. I'm going to reset the clock 5 years. And I'll just say that I was born in 96.
I mean, to be fair,
that sounds like a good year.
To be fair, people have been doing that for like decades. You know what I mean? Like that one aunt who's like 80, but she keeps saying like, "Oh, I'm 50 this year," and you're like, "Damn, you look pretty bad for 50."
Well, my mom's been 29. My mom's been 29 for like as long as I've been alive. So I mean, like that's something.
Yeah,
But like I feel like I got the face for it that I could pull off. Like if I said I'm 25, people would believe that. I got the maturity of that, so I mean, like, hey. I feel like if I say I'm young, I'm like I am, I'm still young. But like also like Matt, the thing is you have responsibilities in your life that you can't really say that you're like, oh no, I'm not 30, because like again, you got your kids, you got that stuff. What do I have?
You have Prosser. I mean, it's like
it's
like a house pet. You gotta look.
That's the thing. We're talking about things we want. Like you wanted your kids, I ended up with him. Like it's.
Oh man.
He
is going to edit in a little blurb where he's like, "F you, Ethan."
Nah, he won't.
He should. That'd be
his first appearance on the show.
That'd be very funny. Oh man, poor guy.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the balls to do it.
You're so mean to Prosser. So mean.
But it's because I love him and it keeps him humble.
So really, you're doing him a favor.
Exactly. If I did not belittle my best friend and make him feel terrible, he would have an ego the size of a house.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, I could probably live in that house then. Man, I should stop belittling you so I can live in a nice house.
Yeah.
Everyone listening to this is just confused and knows nothing of what I'm talking about.
Where are we?
What does this have to do with movies? What are you talking about?
What is going on? We're just having a little bit of a conversation here. Just enjoying hanging out a little bit, you know? Like, it's been a crazy month, and sometimes you just gotta, like, take it easy.
When doing these things, we have to talk about random stuff at some point.
Right.
That's what podcasts are about.
Right. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy
who has
the ride.
To a podcast.
Just enjoy the ride.
Structure. That's more.
What episode is this? 23. Episode 23 now. Well, yeah, we already talked about that part, I guess. Because we weren't sure. We got season 23. Yeah, Mandalorian.
Yeah,
I remember that part.
We're on season 23.
Did we talk about that already? Yeah. We're time traveling aliens. This is actually season 23.
We're on season 23.
And
I'm 25 and Matt's 30. There we go. We went to school together 5 years apart.
Yep. Brought it back around. I was really dumb and I stayed behind a couple years, but whatever. It is what it is. I was like that grown ass man in like the elementary school. Like, what's up, kids?
You were the Van Wilder.
Give me your damn lunch money.
School.
Oh,
buddy.
So anything? Did you see anything like movie related this week, or anything that like caught your attention?
Did I see anything movie related?
Anything
Man, I watched so many movies.
Well, yeah, and that's
like we talking about movies we watched, or we thinking about movie news? Because there hasn't been much for movie news.
Anything like movie? Anything
did you see
like
the trailer for Kong vs. Godzilla?
I did. And yeah, that's kind of one of the things I was leading to. Actually, okay, so here's the thing. So I watched the original Godzilla, like the first one, right? Not original, but like Gareth Edwards 2014 one, I think it was. And I actually liked that one. It wasn't too bad. I didn't mind it.
I think it would have been better if Bryan Cranston didn't eat it until the end of the movie.
I totally agree, because I think he was a big selling point. Like the marketing really focused on him, and then they're just like, he's dead right away. You're just like,
well, but like, man, any of his scenes though were amazing. Like they were so captivating. Like
he shouldn't have died right away. So
he should have made it to the end. He could have been doing the civilian stuff while Aaron Taylor Johnson was doing the military stuff.
Yeah,
and then they both end up like, this is me and Prosser's kind of pitch for it. Is that they both end up at the bomb, like the bomb on the boat thing. And then Bryan Cranston like knocks out his son and saves him and sacrifices himself that way. and we feel like that would have been a stronger
Well,
finishing point.
I think
Especially,
I think
you have the whole
even
movie of them reconnecting.
yeah, and that's exactly it right there. Reconnecting. You had such a you had such a potential for a beautiful character arc between the son and father who are separated. Oh, it turns out the father's not crazy, and it's kind of about them reconnecting through this journey, right? And coming closer together again. And honestly, he didn't even I don't even think he'd have to die to sell that point and to, pull off that narrative. He wouldn't have to die. I mean, it'd be a nice gesture if that's the route you want to go. But I don't think he even had to die. So the fact that he died so early, I was like, come on, come on. That was like the movie's like one big weakness, because like um, Aaron Taylor Johnson, like he's pretty good. He did a pretty good job. But again, so many times he was just like by himself, and it was like you really could have used that other dude. Like you really could have used Bryan Cranston, because he is an actor that can carry some serious weight. Like
Well,
just fantastic. Was
their chemistry was good. Like
But we
they had a
needed
good
more of it. We needed more.
dynamic,
We
right?
barely got to see it.
And that's exactly it, right? And also, like, it was weird having Elizabeth Olsen just kind of be on the sidelines too.
Yeah, she didn't do too much, unfortunately.
Well, and it's like again, she's so good, right? Like,
Yeah. Um. So anyway, no, I watched that first one. I watched Kong, Skull Island, which I thought was
I love
actually
that one.
pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was a really good one.
Out of the monster movies, that one
Um,
is still my favorite one.
Yeah, I
Like,
didn't watch King of the Monsters yet. I just haven't gone around to it because I heard it wasn't like that great. Like it was pretty
it's
good,
good.
but it's
It's
like
fun.
it could have been better kind of thing. So I haven't been there and watched that. So I
My
wasn't. I didn't know if I was too hyped for this movie, but then I watched the trailer and I was
and
like,
then got like,
man, this trailer's pretty hype. Like, so here's the thing, like the whole point of a trailer is to bring whoever is viewing it, like their interest level from one level to the next level, to like bring it up. Like that's the whole point
yeah,
of the trailer, to build hype, to build interest into your project. And some trailers do a great job, some like actually lower your interest, like, well, that was crap, not that interesting
yep.
now. Some just keep it even. This one I went from like middle ground to like damn near the top. I'm like hyped for this film. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And clearly there's a lot of twists and turns in here potentially that, they got going on. There's possibly some Mecha Godzilla in there, which I was like, sick. Um so yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Like as long as like the humans are cool, but
I'm
like let's not spend all the time on the humans. Let's get some good monster fighting in here as
Well,
well.
that was my complaint. My complaint with the last movie was that there wasn't enough monster fighting.
Yeah.
And then I realized after I said that I could have like 120% monster fighting in these movies and be like, there wasn't enough monster fighting. Because
Yeah,
like
and like
I just love I love it so much.
and
And that's
again,
even growing up, that's what I watched them for.
and
I'd go
again,
to the
I
library.
I didn't see King of the Monsters, right? But like a lot of the feedback was people saying like, it'd be just getting to a good part in the fight, then they're like, and back to the humans, and they're like, why? Just stay with the freaking monsters. So I think as long as they do a great job with that as far as editing, and you get some really fulfilling fights, I think it's gonna be pretty sweet. And from what we've seen so far, it's a very compelling trailer. It's definitely
I'm
done its job.
as a fan of Kong and Godzilla growing up. Like that's monster movies were my jam. Growing up, I'd like go to the library and I would borrow the old King Kong
Yeah,
movies, the old Godzilla movies, and I would skip all the human stuff and just watch the monsters fight.
like
Like that was
straight
just
up.
my
Yeah,
that was my jam. And so like ever since the new ones have been coming out, I've been on board for it. This one they didn't even need to release a trailer, and I was already hyped. Like that's because again, like even I go back and watch the original Kong versus Godzilla, and it's
right.
so dumb, but it's so great. But it's so dumb, but it's so great. But I love it.
But like how
But
corny
like,
they were was it worked, right? Like
oh, it's
that was
phenomenal.
part of the magic. That was part of the magic, especially in
Like,
those older ones.
and that's where again, like this, I wasn't, I didn't need to be sold. There are some franchises where I'm very convinced they don't need to release trailers anymore. Actually, that would be the strangest way trailers could go, but I could almost see it happening is just no trailers. Like at this point, no more hype for it. You basically like for Star Wars, they could just release posters and like the title, and people would still show up on opening night in droves.
That's true. That's
Like in all honesty, it would be such a weird. Same thing for Marvel. Same thing. There's a lot
I was
of
gonna say
there's
for
a lot of
Marvel, yeah.
franchises where like they could almost you could almost use that as a new marketing tool of like not revealing anything
Well,
at all.
they really almost did that for Endgame, right? Like Endgame took a really long time to get that first look at Avengers. Actually, I'm trying to remember cuz like Infinity War was pretty standard. Infinity War, I think the trailer came out December, the first one or something like that. It was like really
I want to
either
say
late into the year or like early into that year.
Endgame's trailer came out pretty
But
late in the
Endgames
game.
came out late. Like people were just like, "Where's the Endgame trailer? Why isn't it out yet?" Like people were losing their freaking minds, and it actually
So
works
did
really well to like bring in hype because people just wanted to get a look at this thing. Oh,
so
this
did
is
Rise of
great.
Skywalker though. I think
Yeah,
Rise of
the
Skywalker
trailer.
we didn't get the trailer until like September, October.
We got
And
the
like
first. We got the first trailer during Star Wars Fest
I thought we didn't.
in like
Maybe the teaser?
July or something. No, wait, no, it was earlier because we were in the hospital with Max that year.
Was
So
that Rise or was
yeah, no, that was Rise.
gosh, it's been so long.
Yeah, no, we got the first
Life
trailer
is
for
so
that
long.
in actually April. Now that
I
I
thought
say
that
that.
they left it really late.
I think the second trailer might have been a bit later, but the first trailer was in April. I can tell you that because I remember watching it at the side of the hospital bed. That's the only reason I remember being
What?
like, oh, I'm going to watch this Star Wars trailer. And I slept on a cot on the floor. It was really fun.
Sounds like it.
Ah, yeah. Those were good days. And I
But
say
better
that
days now?
slightly sarcastically. No, those are just for a little context. Like we had my son was born 3 months early, and we were in the hospital for I think a week before he was born too, with some other issues. So, um, that's why I'm saying that. His birth was, him being around great. I mean, he's young, he's healthy and strong now, running around being all crazy and such. So we're very
Being a
lucky.
child.
We were very lucky, very blessed.
Either way though, like I'm excited, man. I'm just excited for
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
that's
I think it'll be a
well,
lot of fun.
here's the thing. That's the one that I'm hyped for the most this year. Like there's not really any other movies that I can think of that I'm like, yeah, I can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah,
Although they pushed it back. They pushed it back a week. They pushed it back to March 31st now.
yeah, which isn't too bad. Which is
I'm fine with
like,
that.
I don't like again. I don't think we're gonna honestly, with the way everything's going and like the speed of the rollout of the vaccine. I still don't think we're gonna get like a ton of movies this year. Like maybe in the later half, but it'll be interesting to see how many more continue to delay to later 2021 or early 2022. It'll be
No,
interesting
and
to
I can
see
agree to that.
because if they're still not going to make their money back, why have we been holding it this long, right? Like that's you've been holding some of these since literally when the pandemic started, March of last year. Like we're talking like Black Widow has been
Well,
on
that's one I'm
hold for like
surprised that
so
hasn't dropped
long.
yet.
So like they're not gonna just show that if they think they're gonna make less than what it should, right? They're gonna wait because they've already waited this long. You're gonna keep waiting. Quiet Place 2. I was gonna go see a Quiet Place 2 in the theaters before the pandemic happened, and that movie I think came out. I can't remember if it just came out just before or just after everything started to shut down, or was supposed to come out just after. That's probably what it is. It was
I
supposed
think
to come
so.
out just after everything shut down, and it's still not out yet, which is fair. Which is fair. I'm not. I think it's probably the right call, but
Well, Bond, I think they pushed back to
Bond is pushed back to
2022,
no. I
or is
think
it back to
it's back
November?
it's back to like October, November, some 2021 right now. But again, we'll have to see how that plays out too, because that's
Here
been
we go again.
yeah they've been that movie's been delayed what four times because it was delayed even before the pandemic happened, and then I think it was delayed, for pandemic reasons after that. But
And that's not us complaining. Like at the end of the day, like I don't think either
oh
of us are
no,
complaining
no,
about the movie delays.
listen, I can't go to the theaters right now anyway. Well, we can, and I guess technically I have went to one, but like I'm not going to be spending a lot of time risking going out to a movie theater right now.
Well, straight up, right?
And I
Like
don't really
it's
want to watch it on TV. Like I'd rather just wait and watch it in the theaters. And when these movies come back and the theaters reopen and we have considerably less cases, I will be there. I will be there. I will
see, and
find
that's
him.
for me. I'm okay
Oh, Man
watching
of
stuff at
Steel.
home. Yeah, boo, boo.
I will find him.
But you didn't find him, did you?
Man, Michael Shannon was pretty good in that movie. He was
Oh no, he
pretty.
was great.
He's a pretty convincing Zod.
Hey, I wasn't. None of my complaints with that movie has to do with the actors. The actors are all swell. If only they were given a good script.
I don't know, man. I'm still on the opposite page of you in that one. I don't think
And that's the wrong page. But I
it's
mean, it's
not. It's
okay.
not the wrong page.
Yep, it's wrong.
No,
Yep,
no,
it's wrong.
no. Some
Wrong.
people might disagree, but I
And
think
those
it's an
people would
I think
be
it's an underrated film.
wrong.
But they would
Um,
not, sir. They would not.
Yes, they would be.
But they would
because,
not, sir.
wrong.
They would not. You know what? And this kind of comes back to it. Actually, it comes back to nothing. I'm bringing up a totally different point, so I'm not sure why I said that. This comes back to it. Actually, you know what? It comes back to nothing. And I think it's like the best part of storytelling and the best part of films and movies. And I think we have talked about this before. Is you're saying, I'm wrong, and I'm saying, no, you're wrong. Like, yeah, the idea that we can watch the same film and get some just things that are so totally different out of it is amazing to me, because just shows how stories speak to our life experiences and how we perceive these films by the paths that we walked and the things that we have seen, and our viewpoints that we have created throughout our own life. Like, that all goes into watching a film. And like, some things hit really strong for people, other things not so much. And I think we talked about that the other week there too, when I was talking about Wonder Woman, because I was like, I don't think it was as bad as everyone says it was, but it also wasn't super great. But there was a lot of things that I got out of it that I don't think. Obviously, other
Well, that's
people
why.
did not, right? But it's just because of my own life experiences and what I'm looking for in a film, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why for me, it hit and not as good as it could have been. And it's the same thing.
No, that's
with,
100% true. Like I
It's the
said,
same thing.
it's not the worst, but it's not as bad as everyone's saying. But it's not the best either. Like, it has a lot
That's
of
also how I
growing room.
felt. That's also how I felt about the first one, though. The first one, it felt like it was missing something. Like, it just wasn't, like, it was good. It was good, and I liked it, but it just wasn't. It wasn't as good or polished as it should have been,
Right.
and that's kind of my problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's been my feeling on it for a while. And this one felt like it was like 6 different movies trying to be one movie, and the tone was all over
Yeah,
the
it
place
was
for
definitely a
me.
lot of different ideas. And like I said, 2 writers for sure. And I actually found out like Jeff Johns was actually also writing this film. So he's also credited as one of the writers. So how much he actually wrote or not. So it makes sense to me when I said this film feels like it was written by 2 different people, because I'm pretty sure like it very specifically was, and I think those bits of writing
Well, I think
stand out
it's a good example of
very
too many
clearly.
cooks in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's clearly that reaches a point where there's just too many people getting their hands in it, and you can tell after a while.
Well,
Like, it's one of those things of
Yeah, and I think as well, when you're talking about it, like, especially if you're on a writing team, you can tell when a writing team is together on something. When they're of the same mind, the same goals, they've decided on like their
Yep.
themes, they decided on what they want to do with these characters, and they go for it, and they work together to create and put together this collaborative piece of writing, of storytelling. But you can also tell when writers are not on the same like page, literally sometimes,
they try and
they're
stick
doing
it together
they're
anyway.
doing 2 different things, and they're like, let's just like grab some staples and punch this thing together. No one's gonna notice, but people notice, and people don't always specifically say like, oh, this feels like 2 different writers, or they can't necessarily point out what's wrong all the time, but people can
Yeah.
feel the difference, right? And people can see the inconsistency, and they say, hey, why aren't these things matching? So, and that's very much what happened in that film. There was a lot of things that I thought, again, were really good, really thought out. And there was other things, there was like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, it's just, the thinking behind it wasn't there. So it definitely felt like a story of 2. Now, which one was which writer, I cannot say. And which one,
And we would like to know, but we're never gonna find out.
no, we're definitely not. But yeah, I just found that interesting. I'm like, oh, there was 2 writers. Not surprised.
Well, like that happens a lot nowadays. It's actually been interesting to watch because actually, even as we actually marathon the Jurassic Park series this last 2 weeks, so 5 films in a week, which was fun. Getting ready for the third one that's gonna come out in 2022.
Yeah,
So we gotta wait for a while.
it'll be a while.
But aside from the first one had 2 writers on it, the original author and a screenwriter. The second one just had the screenwriter on it. And the third one had 3 writers. And the fourth one had 4 writers. And
Are they just going with the number? They're like, oh, let's just keep boosting it.
how many writers were there on the 5th one, or do we even see, or do we check out at that point? All I know is more writers did not equal best.
Yeah.
Because the way we figured it out now is Jurassic Park number 1. Jurassic Park is an irrefutable classic. Like that's just an amazing movie. We found Jurassic World and Lost World of Jurassic Park were kind of at the same level for us. Where
Fair enough.
we like them both, but there are definitely flaws in both of them that just don't like.
Well, they still don't reach that. Yeah, the classic. No.
Yeah.
And
then the third one was just the worst because we just like, it's not a good movie. It's fun. Like it's still good. But in relation to the rest of them, it's not as good.
It's definitely a weaker one. Yeah.
Honestly, Fallen Kingdom gets a lot of unnecessary dislike, but like it's fun. It's a fun movie, and it's kind of the best way that you could go with that.
Yeah, I didn't like Fallen Kingdom in the theater too much, but I saw it's on Netflix. I'm like, oh, maybe I have to watch because I haven't watched it since it came out. I watched it once in theaters. I haven't seen it again since. I've watched Rise of Skywalker more than I've watched Fallen Kingdom, and I hated Rise of Skywalker for the most part.
You should give Fallen Kingdom another chance.
I think I will. I think
because like at the end of the day, it's not an amazing film by any means, but it's a solid Jurassic Park sequel.
And it was something different. Like I liked where it left off the series because it's like you can only go to the island so many times. Blowing it up really made sense.
This one I liked because they really leaned into the horror aspect of it. Like they could have leaned into it more.
Yeah.
But they leaned into it more than any of the other ones have.
Yeah.
Like even the opening scene is amazing.
That was so good.
Like the opening sequence.
I was that's why I think maybe that's why I was a little bit more disappointed for the rest of the film. Like the ending was okay, like in the ending manner it gets and stuff.
Back
like
to
it
that.
kind of gets back to that, but it wasn't as good. But like that opening was so fire that I think it actually hurt the rest of the film kind of going forward because that tone didn't show up again till very later. It didn't show up till much later in the film, and then again it still wasn't done as good as literally the opening sequence. So
that's where we're super curious about how the third one's going to go and what the story is going to be with that, because I think it's going to be dope. Like I think it's going to actually be
like the concept and the idea and that little mini film that they released. You remember a couple years back that Colin Trevorrow did at like that campsite? It was a fight.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you should watch it. It's on YouTube, man. Very easy to find.
Apparently, yeah.
It's like a campground, and there's like some little baby dinosaur that rolls in, and then I think is it like an Allosaurus comes in and starts wrecking shop, and it takes place like canonically shortly after like Fallen Kingdom, right? When all the dinosaurs escape into the woods and such. Okay. So, and that was actually real. Like, dude, you should watch it because I was like, oh my god, are they legit gonna kill this kid? Because that's what it looks like. Like it was like really well done. So if the film like is like that, I'm thinking money. And I love that the original 3 are coming back and not just in cameo roles. They'll actually have significant roles. I'm hyped because I want to see Alan Grant again, but not in Jurassic Park 3. You know what I want to see? I want to see Jurassic Park 1 Alan Grant, but like older.
Well, in Jurassic Park 3, he was fine. But everything else
around him was
like,
junk, man. And he's such a good character. And obviously Jeff Goldblum coming back. Like this is the first time they've been on a film together and not just been on a film together, but like acted together. I think since the first Jurassic Park. They were technically in Thor Ragnarok together.
But not together.
Yeah. Because Jeff Goldblum was the Grandmaster and Sam Neill was the fake Odin in the play. When I realized that was Sam Neill, I was like, oh my god, amazing.
Is he coming back for the fourth one, or is that just Matt Damon coming back?
So far just Matt Damon that I've heard. I didn't see anything about Sam Neill coming back for it, but you never know. Him and Taika are pretty
It's
tight.
Taika Waititi.
You
I mean,
never
Taika's
know.
tight with everybody he meets.
That's because he's amazing.
Can we go one podcast without mentioning how amazing Taika Waititi
I don't
is?
know. Probably
I don't
not.
think so.
No, I don't know. He's pretty great. Just a great soul. You know, he's just
Oh, exactly.
God. He's got it. He's got it.
Did you watch anything exciting this week, Matt? Did you, or has it been mostly work for you?
No, it's been work. Lots of writing. I'm listening to Ben-Hur, the audiobook, which is a lot of fun. In between my other books that are more instructional, but yeah, no, that's pretty.
See, and
That's pretty much it. Because I listen to it in the car while I'm driving around. Because I had to like drop off my wife at
Yeah.
work, come home, pick up my daughter, take her to school, come home. So I'm literally doing laps around the city and then go pick them both up multiple times a day. So a nice audiobook is like perfect for the drive. I get like at least an hour and a half in of book a day, so it works out pretty good. And
Well,
I
that's
decided to
been,
go with Ben-Hur because I was like, I remember having to watch that movie as a youngin'. I don't really remember the whole movie, just like little bits and pieces, but I also remember it was super boring, especially as a kid. But
except for the chariot scene.
but even then, like I probably left at that. I left before that happened, probably, right?
That's fair.
Um, but
But
like
then
as an adult, right? You're just like, oh man, I'm really interested in seeing how this all plays together because it is a, it's a narratively and technically it is a classic. Like it really,
I love that it's
really is.
I love that it's secretly an Easter movie. Like it's secretly
Yeah.
it's secretly
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's like, oh, it's this good like Roman film and everything, and
but
then like
also
and then
Jesus.
hey, by the way, did we mention Jesus is in this movie? And it's like, wait, where what? And then
Yeah.
he disappears. He disappears for like another third of the movie, and then at the end they're like, and now the crucifixion.
Well, like,
Like-
and that's exactly it. Like, I'm like right smack dab in the middle of the book, pretty much. Like, I've already listened to 12 hours. I got like 10 left to go, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And like, the whole book starts with like the wise men going to find Jesus and stuff. And I'm like, I thought this was about chariots, but okay, we're going.
What does that have to do with
We're going to
Ben-Hur?
find Jesus. Not sure what this has to do with anything, but cool. And then he meets Jesus when he's getting sold to like the galley slaves,
Yeah.
right? For like a second. And then he's gone. And then they mention Jesus when Ben-Hur eventually meets up with one of the wise men and like this other, guy, the guy who he's like gonna race the chariots for, who owns the horses. He's also friends with one of these wise men, and the wise men's there. And like, so then they talk and he starts talking about Jesus and stuff, and then they're just like, oh, this is interesting. But then again, the story continues, right? Which is the family drama and Masala and trying to find his family, but also get vengeance for what his former friend did to him. So that's obviously the more interesting narrative. But again, I kind of breezed through the chapters and I was like, oh, and then it ends at the crucifixion. So how does this all play out? I don't know. How's it all come together? I don't know. But I'm interested to find out. And I'll find out in another like 10 hours. We'll see how it goes.
I'm on the opposite end of the book spectrum. Maybe not the exact opposite. It's still a classic. I'm listening to Jurassic Park,
Oh, man. Yeah.
which is actually what got me on the kick to watch the movies.
Yeah.
And like I'm halfway done that, and like it's so different from the book or the movie,
Movies,
but like
yeah.
it's also, but like there are scenes that I'm like, oh man, it would have been cool if they would have gone a bit more depth with this, but like I understand why they didn't. Like,
Well, apparently, like the Lost World book is radically different from the actual film. Like it's considerably different, and I haven't read that yet, but I'll probably get
honestly,
to it.
I might hop into that right after I'm done this one.
I decided, and because I totally forgot I bought it, because I bought it probably, I don't know, maybe a year ago now. It's been quite a while. No, maybe not. Maybe like 8 months or something. Like, well, no, we're getting close to March again, so maybe it has been close to
Yup.
a year. It's like, ah, damn, it's hard to keep track of time. I bought like the Fellowship of the Ring because I wanted to like listen to that because like you watch the movies and I'm like I want to read the books because so many people love the books and there's so many different elements in the books that don't make it into the movie, which is like crazy to me because the movies are still super long, right? So
And
I
then
was
you
like,
try and read the book, and
well, and here I go, right? So as soon as I'm done Ben Hur, I might I might move over to the next Last Kingdom book first because I just grabbed that because I want to keep going on those. Um, or because Ben Hur is like a long one. That was like it's like 24-hour read or
yep.
so, and then Last Kingdom I think is the second book is like 14 or 16 hours, something there, so not quite as long. And then Lord of the Rings is obviously again considerably long, like another like long one. So I might jump over to Last Kingdom and then go back to Lord of the Rings and go from there because I don't know, I really want to read the books, you know what I mean? Like I want to get a feel for like the world they created through the books. And that's always an interesting thing to see the world they create in the films and then to go back and see how much inspiration did they take from the books, stuff like that. But
Actually, I saw someone talk about this online recently, and I didn't realize that I'd done the same thing myself. But I've actually watched a lot more movies and then read the books than I have read the books and then watched the movies of things. And honestly, for the most part, I like it better that way.
yeah.
Because there's been only one movie that's made me upset with that, and that was Scott Pilgrim. Because like I watched the movie and I was like, okay, this is cool, but okay. And then I read the books and I'm like, okay, they missed on so many things.
Yeah.
They missed on this like massive like chunk of these characters. And like that's the only thing I've really been disappointed with. Otherwise, like The Exorcist, Ready Player One, Jurassic Park. There's probably more. I guess Narnia doesn't count because I mean that's flipped, and Lord of the Rings doesn't count because I was young. But a
I
lot of
was
times,
yeah.
like I was just excited to see like all these characters I knew up on the big screen. I didn't care if they didn't get things right. I was just like, yeah, kill those orcs, woo!
Well, yeah, and to be fair, like I honestly don't think you could find a more. And again, I haven't read the books, but just going off what a lot of people say, I'll find out soon enough myself. But I don't really think you can find a more thorough recreation. Like I think they were very thorough in the Lord of the Rings films. Like there's obviously certain characters like was it Tom Bombadil or Bombadil
Yeah, you
that
can
I've
skip
that
that in the
I've
book.
that I've heard about, right? That people are like, oh, why isn't he in the film? But like everyone's like, he's not important. But like the things that are
Have they read the book?
I don't know.
That's why he's
they,
not in the
they
movie.
just really care about it, I guess. But but there's a lot of but like so much of the core, it's just such a thorough recreation and a
100%.
committed recreation to the to
You can tell it was a labor of love.
yeah, that's I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's not just like it wasn't just for a quick buck. It wasn't turning a huge book into like an hour and a half long film. Like they gave Peter Jackson the time that he needed. They made the director. They allowed him to make all those big cuts to make the big additions. You
Well,
know.
honestly, though, it's the same thing for his interpretation of King Kong.
Yeah,
Like
that was good.
that to
Jack
me,
Black.
I love that interpretation. I think it's a really great retelling. It does different things, but it still pays homage to the original one. It's not really a pointless remake. And I personally like that. That to me, when he's given the freedom to do what he wants, then he makes great movies.
And without the
And you can tell again,
and without
it's
the time constraints too, because you can really tell the difference, obviously, between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, right?
yeah.
And not just trying to expand one book into three, kind of thing, but just and I
Well,
don't
you
want to
can
say the amount of effort necessarily on his part, but the whole production, because I think he came and took over as like
yeah
someone else was supposed to direct that film, and he took
yeah Del
over. So
Toro.
it's not like his. It's not. It's very different from being his baby the whole time. All right.
Well, you can tell again, it's that labor of love thing. You can tell that again at the end of the day, it wasn't what he wanted to do, but he still did. In my opinion, with the Hobbit movies, he still did a good job with it. Could it have been better at some points? Yes, but I think for the world that he set up, and plus the amount of complaining that Lord of the Rings fans made when there wasn't enough in Lord of the Rings, so he's like, okay, well we'll put more in the Hobbit then. Oh, now there's too much in the Hobbit.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine pointed out to me that like basically no one's gonna be happy with it because they're either gonna complain that it's too long or too short, and
Well, you can never make everyone happy at the end of the day, right? Like you just can't. You really can.
nope. Because again, everyone's opinionated, and everyone has to be right. And
Yeah, yeah,
in reality, they all just suck.
yeah. I mean, like, and it is an art, like taking like a lot of people say like adaptation, like a film being adapted from a novel or from a book is easier than just making a film out of like thin air. And I think
I would disagree
yeah, and I
completely.
would, because it is a craft to create a film out of a book, because you can't, it's not just a one for one, one for one shot of this scene in the book to the film, right? Like you have to create it for its medium. A book doesn't just transfer seamlessly over into a film. Like there are things you have to cut, there are things you have to adjust and move around for it to make sense in a film.
Like if you want to adapt a comic book, it's a bit more like that because essentially a comic book can act as your storyboard,
A lot of the
has
time, yeah,
been
very similar. Yeah,
as proven by Zack Snyder. Because his two best films, 300 and Watchmen, and it's just shot for shots of the comics.
yeah,
That's my opinion, and people can come at me, I guess. But at the end of the day, like when you look at his more original movies, like the Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, all that kind of stuff, the stories could be stronger, and the cinematography and the shots look great. But that's because he's lifting specific moments from the comics and just placing them in for people to be like, "Hey, look, I get that reference."
cool.
And that's a problem because if you're only visual storytelling, if that's the only thing that you care about, and that's what a lot of people of his, like a lot of fans of his, I hear him say, they're like, "Oh, well, visually it's amazing," and it's like, okay, but how
That's
is the
not the
story?
only way to count it, though. Yeah.
But visually, and it's like, okay, yeah, like I get visually, but like I've watched some very visually stunning pieces of garbage throughout my life.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that are shot beautifully that are boring.
Yeah. Well, some people just like to get distracted by the flash of it, right? Like,
And at the end of the day, like I'd rather have substance with characters than necessarily flashy cinematography.
and that's what they teach you when you're building PowerPoints, right? Like, it's what they always said in school: content first, then make your PowerPoint fancy. Because fancy
Yep.
PowerPoints don't communicate jack. Like, ooh, it's fancy, but if you don't have the
Well,
actual
that's
content to back it up, it's not. It's not going to help.
and that's what I found a lot of times. There wasn't the like the meat's the wrong thing to say because like there wasn't layers. A lot of the characters were kind of one note. There wasn't the dichotomy of Clark Kent and Superman. That's one of my biggest complaints about the Man of Steel, Batman v Superman Justice League thing is that you don't really see a difference between Clark Kent and Superman. You see the one guy, and like that's like
It really I think that was intentional in Man of Steel. After that point, though, it should have adjusted and changed, right? Like it really should have, as he was definitely trying to fit into the world and be Superman, not just literally show up one day.
but when people know who he is, that kind of defeats the purpose of having that secret identity, right? And that's kind of how it feels like how Snyder approached that was very much without that in mind. Because like you're telling me that glasses are gonna fool Lois Lane, who went to the Kent farm, who stood beside Clark Kent at his father's grave, and then he's gonna show up and be like, "Hey, he's a new reporter, Clark Kent." And then she's supposed to be surprised, and who is this man? Could he be Superman? She knows.
Yeah.
And like she wasn't shy about saying his name in front of, I don't know, the military, the police, pretty much anybody. So like people gotta know. And that's where I'm just kind of like that's one of the bigger shames for me is like I know Henry Cavill could do an amazing job at it, but I love two examples of it. It's the Christopher Reeves and Brandon Routh did the same thing when he played Superman in Superman Returns, where you have Superman. He's very, yes, well, Lois, I'm Superman. Yes, look at me. And then there's Clark, and he's just like, his voice is a little quieter, and he's a little bit like, oh, yeah, well, Lois, I'd like to
A very
take
different
you to dinner
persona.
sometime.
And he projects a very different energy from one to
And
the
the
other.
the transformation between like what those guys did were amazing. Brandon Routh, I think, needs to get more recognition for his performance, because whether that movie was good or not aside, he did great as Superman. I think he did a really good job. And Christopher Reeves is just
Well,
amazing. Like,
classic,
just
right?
classic, right?
Classic.
And Henry Cavill could be that. He deserves to be that,
He
because
deserves
Henry Cavill is amazing.
He deserves the chance to be Superman as Superman is. You know what I mean? Like, because he was like, Man of Steel wasn't Superman. Man of Steel was like
It was him
proto
finding
Superman.
his,
You know what I mean?
it's him
Like
finding his
his
footing.
feet. And then, Justice League, not Justice League, but Batman v Superman was him still just like, how exactly
Being
do I
broody and
Yeah.
pouty and
See, I don't defend that decision because Batman
And
v
then they
Superman
cut
was
him
not my
down.
favorite film, and then they killed him way too early.
in
Like,
his prime.
here's the thing about Batman v Superman. I was always like, you guys, you just like threw everything you had at the wall because at that point,
But that's-
they were still trying to catch up with Avengers, right? So it's like you
And that's what I
literally just
mean.
threw everything at the wall. Like you just blew your load way too soon. Like.
that's
Why
what I
would you
mean, too, is,
lead?
like-
Why would you lead your universe with the death of Superman? Let us actually get to know him and build a connection. Then you can kill him and he'll be emotional. But none of us felt anything because he's only been around for one film and like a quarter of another one. I don't even
It's
know if
because
that.
Zack Snyder was just taking images from comics.
Yeah, like or
That's
story
what the problem
ideas
was.
and like mashing
It's-
them together. Once you got to Batman v Superman, Man of Steel
straight up-
was more focused, but after that it was just a mess. And Justice League obviously was no better. There was potential at the end of Justice League. There was potential, but not recognized yet. Not recognized.
Getting to see him interact with the Flash for the race was the closest we got to see to like Superman.
Well, just getting to see just had that persona because it was very
Mm-hmm.
different, obviously, from before he was stabbed. Post stabbed, pre stabbed. So if you're in a bad mood, getting stabbed is the
Well, and that's-
best solution. Die.
That's why I'm really
come
worried-
back, and you'll feel a heck of a lot better. It's a lot of
why
weight
I'm
off your shoulders.
I'm worried about the Snyder cut because I think it's just going to be more broody. I think it's just going to be Justice League but sadder.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
that's-
I don't know. Maybe
That's my guess.
maybe.
But like,
But Henry Cavill
just-
deserves the chance to fully be that Superman.
it shouldn't have been Doomsday. They literally
Again,
they
blowing your load,
literally
dude. Right off
they
the top.
literally-
right off the top. Like
What they
are we
did-
doing? What are we doing, guys?
what they did is they made Bizarro and then just turned him into Doomsday, because Bizarro is supposed to be like essentially a failed clone of Lex Luthor and Superman.
Yeah.
And that's what he's supposed to be, which is essentially what he kind of did, except for with Zod. So if they would have made like Bizarro Zod, I think that would have been cool. That would have been a good way to go.
Some kind of weird zombie looking Zod guy.
Well, and also you can give Batman a perspective of what Superman was fighting against, right? You have him realize, oh, so like this is why everything went to hell.
Oh, so this is why this half a city got destroyed.
So
but,
it
like,
wasn't Superman. It was like,
Let's be honest though, Batman should have had a clue. World's greatest detective. He's like, this guy's an a-hole. It's like,
oh yeah, he was
but like two god level powered people get into a fist fight, and you think nothing's gonna get broken? Have you ever watched wrestling, man? Shit gets broken all the time. Tables, chairs, nets, people's heads. It don't matter. Even though that's all fake,
is
but so is this.
the big problem with Batman v Superman is that they're number one, they take place across the bay from each other.
Yeah.
Is Metropolis and Gotham
Right
are in
across
spitting
Yeah,
distance
they're,
of each
they're
other.
like right there. Like, what's up, guys?
And the problem with that is that somehow, yes, Batman's been retired for 8 years, but you're telling me that Clark Kent has never heard of the Batman in his entire 33 years of living? I call malarkey on that.
So and to be and to just add to your point there, like, okay, fair enough. He grew up in Smallville. Maybe he wasn't all about it.
Batman be pretty big
But-
worldwide
but-
news.
I know, right? Or at least in that Gotham Metropolis Bay area. You know what I mean? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like close enough that they should have a clue. Also, the fact that like Batman's been retired already for 8 years, that means he was active for already like who knows how long, 10, 20 years. maybe 25, and nobody's heard of him. Like, he's still just a myth. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense.
But they have a bat signal,
yeah.
and that makes like
Yeah. He's
then-
a myth. What the bat signal?
And then the other thing is that you brought up, like, the world's greatest detective can't figure out which alien is a threat and which one isn't. No, he's just xenophobic.
And that's what he
Like-
was, right? That's literally what he was until he was like, "You have a mom named Martha? Everything makes sense.
We're
now.
best friends now.
I got you. I got you." And it was just like, bro.
Well, literally the
makes
next scene,
sense,
he
man.
says he's friends with his son.
Yeah, I'm friends with your son.
like, you just tried
I
to-
literally
I
almost
just tried to murder
him.
him, but like we're friends.
Literally 10 minutes ago, I almost murdered him, but
Oh, we're cool now. Don't
we're
worry
tight
about
now.
it.
We're tight. It's cool.
Yeah,
It's cool.
we're buds.
Don't worry about it.
But like that's the problem, man. Like that's the massive problem with it.
And I did watch it again, and I think it made a little bit more sense, like the Martha thing.
Did you watch the extended one, or did you watch the?
No. And this wasn't anytime recently. Like, this was like over 3 years ago that I'd watched
Okay.
it again because my wife hadn't seen it in theaters because I was like, I'm not going back to watch that. That was terrible. And it made a little bit more sense, like looking at the characters and the psychological effect, obviously, that Batman's parents, especially his mother's death, had on him. So, like, for that to be a trigger word kind of made sense. But the idea and the concept built around it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Just because she says Martha, oh, maybe it gives you flashbacks, but it all of a sudden doesn't make you friends. Like, just because you're
Well,
like, oh, you have a mother? Like, you didn't think he had a mother? You didn't think he had people that he loved? You think he just
He's
rolled
an alien.
around
Aliens don't have
breaking
moms.
stuff? Like, it was, again, world's great. Like, this would be different if we're talking about Joe Chill was like, I hate Superman because I'm an a-hole. You know what I mean? But, like, this is the world's greatest detective. Like, what are you even detecting if you can't detect that?
And like at the end of the day, like, just character wise, it doesn't make any sense. And it's the thing is, at the end of the day, you shouldn't have to watch a movie more than once in order for it to make sense. If you have to watch a movie more than once, you should get more things that like add to your experience.
For sure.
of
Yeah, no,
course.
I get that. Yeah.
Well, it should still make sense on your first go through.
You shouldn't be sitting there like-
multiple times. What is this?
Well,
So-
it was very much like one of those types of twist endings that come out of nowhere. That there was like, when you watch it back, like, wait, there was no foreshadowing. Like, there's no hint that this would go down this way. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, surprise. We wrote ourselves into the corner, but we'll just write something ridiculous to get out. Like, that's what it felt like, right?
So,
it really did. Just cheap.
We've been watching the Batman animated series recently too.
Nice.
And I kind of wanted to make like a video on this, like kind of a little talking head video.
Yeah.
Because I think very unintentionally, and I want to say it was because of budget reasons, I think that they somehow made Bruce's parents' death even more tragic in the animated series. Because when Thomas Wayne shows up, it's only ever in flashbacks or like in his in either in flashbacks or in his memory or like delusions. And aside from his first appearance, which he was voiced by the same guy who did Two-Face, Thomas Wayne is always voiced by Kevin Conroy.
Right.
And I was thinking about it, and it's kind of, I know it's a budgetary thing, but it's an interesting thought that, also, I guess to preface this too, and that's why I want to write it all out, do a little thing.
Fair enough.
Martha, you only hear Martha say Bruce's name, and that's it. You only hear her say Bruce. You don't hear her say anything else. She just says that.
Bruce.
But Bruce's parents died when he was a child.
Yeah.
It has been 25 years since he heard his parents speak to him. His context of what his father's voice might sound would be his own. That's probably the most similar it is. So there's a good chance Bruce doesn't remember what his parents sound like. So he fills that in with his own voice speaking for his father.
That makes sense.
And again,
humans' memories are flaky at best, right? Especially over long
like,
periods of time.
That I realized that watching it, and it hit me in a way that that's. I know it's a budget. I know it's a budgetary thing. I know they only did that because it's like, well, it saves money. We'll just have Kevin say the
It
lines.
just makes sense.
He's here. But like, that just hit. It hit extra because it's like, oh, he's filling in gaps of his parents. Like his parents' death happened when he was so young that he has to fill in information about his parents from himself.
That's interesting.
And again, since
that's interesting.
Since it's his mom, or since he can't fill in his mom's voice, like, and his mom is actually voiced by the lady who does Catwoman.
Okay, yeah.
So like that kind of makes sense too, because it's a woman he cares about, and then cares about his mom too, and
he cares about his mom.
Like, and it was actually like Prosser then chimed in. He was even like, he's like, well, and there's a good chance the reason why he only hears his mom say Bruce is that could be the last thing that he heard his mom say.
Yeah.
And it's like, the animated series is hitting us differently this time, and it's kind of interesting. Like, but it was such a weird thought, and it's the number one thing that we keep getting takeaways from watching it is like, it's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard to make a Batman movie. Why has it been so hard to make a Batman movie? Like, there have been good movies made with Batman in them, but like, they haven't been good Batman movies at the core. And the question is, why? Like, what is so difficult that you can't translate this pretty easy to translate character? But a show in the 90s nailed it and got a good interpretation and got like a good core thing that even challenged a lot of stuff. Like, there's a lot of really light and goofy, silly episodes, but there are some really heavy ones. Like, there's one where like Commissioner Gordon gets shot and is in the hospital, and Batman starts questioning whether or not he should keep being Batman and what good he's done with people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's heavy. It's really heavy. And it's like, this is a kid's show. What's going on?
Just dealing with the real topics, man. Just dealing with the real shit. Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, they didn't pull any punches, but again, a lot of the modern adaptations just they don't hold the same weight. And at the end of the day, it's because certain people who are in charge of them claim to understand the characters, but at the end of the day, no, they just want badasses to beat in heads. That's all it is. And it's like, that's not what they are. That's not what superheroes are at the core. They're people. And the more interesting superhero shows that I've watched recently are the ones where it's like, oh, these are real people dealing with extraordinary circumstances, rather than, I'm the hero who needs to save the day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's
shallow. The shallowness of it, right? Like, you just do the exterior.
Again, that's the Superman to the Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's missing sometimes. You get Superman, but you're missing Clark. You're missing the core of that. And that's also, I think I've talked about this before, that's what I love with like characters like, specifically Superman and Batman are great examples of that, where you have very distinct 3 identities, not just 2. Because you have Superman and then Clark Kent, and then there's Clark when he's talking to his parents, which is right in the middle of being like, yes, look at me, I'm a hero or a wimp. And that middle Clark exists when he talks to Ma and Pa, when he talks to Lois after she knows about him. And I love that. I love that 3rd layer. And then Batman, you have Batman. And then you have Bruce Wayne, who's the facade as well. And then you have Bruce when he's talking to Alfred.
Yeah.
Or when he's in the Batcave talking to Robin. Or when he's talking to, Selina. Like, I love that extra layer. So it's not just 2 characters. Spider-Man is a bit different because, like, Peter is Peter and Spider-Man's Spider-Man. There's no real 3rd identity there, but, like, that works for his character. Because he's not as much of a public figure, I guess. Whereas, like... Oh, sorry, I just had a flash of the Adam West Batman. And I've mentioned this before a few times, I think, where there's an episode where Bruce Wayne and Batman have a conversation on the phone in front of the commissioner.
yeah, you were telling me that.
And they put the phone stick. It's still the funniest thing in the world, and I still love it to death. And there's a performance difference. There's Adam West putting on 2 different voices of Batman and Bruce Wayne, but it's not like different tones of voice and like I'm talking down here because I'm Batman
Yeah.
versus like I'm Bruce Wayne and I'm fancy and
I'm
stuff. It's literally
fancy.
just like it's literally just inflection. It's
Yeah.
literally how he delivers the lines and his the rhythm to the words and what he
Hmm.
says. And it's fascinating to watch. And recently I haven't found performances that fascinating to watch because when you have like the first Batman Begins, I love Batman Begins, and the differences in his voice is great, and then it gets to the end and he does that weird Batman voice that sticks with the rest of the franchise. And watching someone go and talk from like normal Christian Bale to talking like this, that's not interesting. Because it's like the entire time you listen to him talk, you're number one trying to understand what he's saying, and then number two, you're sitting there going like, okay, you can tell he's just putting on a voice. There's not a layer there. It's just okay, he's putting on a silly voice. And then with Batman v Superman and Justice League, it takes it a step further and it just adds a stupid voice distortion. It's not even him changing his voice, he just has a thing that deepens his voice, and it's like, okay, but like again, it's Batman. He should be able to just change his appearance. He should be able to change who he is. He's a master of deception. It's actually another thing that's come up several times.
I'm like, clearly this
Um,
bugs you a bunch. I'm like, it doesn't really quite bug me as much, but
it bugs me quite a
I
bit,
can
and then
tell
Prosser brought
I
up
can tell it
this.
bugs you.
Um, one thing that Batman always did in the comics, and then he's done in the animated series that Prosser has pointed out, is he would dress up and do undercover work. He would like go into the streets dressed as like his most famous character was Matches Malone, who's just like a petty street thug. But he'd put on makeup, he'd put up like dress up in like old kind of homeless man gear, and he'd go around, he'd get information. Why isn't that in any Batman movies?
It's a fun idea.
Because like, well, it's more than one way to get information rather than like there's times for intimidation, and there's times for infiltration.
Yeah.
Like that's just a thing that would make sense to have, but it doesn't happen, and I don't understand why. Because again, he's a master of deception. Why couldn't he change his appearance and change who he is? Like
Mhm.
it's, and then again, that makes Dark Knight Rises ending just that much more stupid too, because it's like, Bruce Wayne died, but did he? He's over there in Paris at a cafe, world-known billionaire.
Just
Hey,
chilling out. Is he dead? I'm pretty sure we just saw him in Paris. He'd be all
Yeah,
over
but
the like magazines, man. Like,
you have Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park.
we
He's
got
like, we got
Dawson.
Bruce Wayne
We
here.
got Dawson.
See, nobody cares.
Exactly. That's clearly what happened. We got Bruce Wayne
Like,
here.
like it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be.
The ending of that
But the
series was not
problem-
very strong. I'll just say that.
The problem at the end of the day with a lot of just interpretations in general is, and a lot of Batman interpretations, the director's vision, and it's just actually I've said this about Star Wars too. The director's vision clouds what the character is. And that shouldn't be the case when dealing with certain characters like that. Your vision should not trump what the character is.
Mm,
If you're gonna drastically change a character from the core of who they are and the heart of that character, write a different movie. If you want to do an interesting take on that character or a different take on that character, that's fine too. But you need to establish that early on. And at the end of the day, it's Batman's still always going to be Batman.
yeah, that's what well, I'm wondering. That's what specific like example are you referencing? Because I don't think any like as far as I've seen, I don't think anyone's like deviated too far from like what Batman is. Maybe it's not every little aspect of Batman, but at the core, like Batman is still there. There's different interpretations and different ideas of it.
Batman giving up his number one, Batman quitting from in Dark Knight Rises, that bugged me because that doesn't make sense with Batman. And number two, Batman trying to quit being Batman for a relationship, which is in Dark Knight, I don't jive with at all. Like that's so anti-Batman. Batman would not do that. He would not give up being himself. Like if it was early on Batman, if this is like Batman in Batman Begins, I could see him debating that. They actually tackle that in Mask of the Phantasm too, where it's like he's getting ready to move on with his life. He's gonna marry this girl and all that stuff. That she has to leave, and she leaves him, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Mask of Phantasm or no?
Not for like a really long time.
You should rewatch it. It's really good.
Really long time.
And then when she leaves, he's like, okay, well, I guess I'm Batman because I have nothing else to live for. And like early Batman, that makes sense that there would be that struggle. By the time that he is where he is for Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises,
Well,
we're not
I
giving
think
a time
that
frame.
yes,
I guess,
we're not
but,
giving a
like,
time frame. But here's the thing: Batman clearly he's never been Batman that long in that series. Like that's the impression.
But then that makes even less
Like,
sense.
that
Is that he quit
gives-
being? He's been Batman. That makes less sense then, because then for Batman Begins and Dark Knight, he's been Batman for what, 2 years at most, and then he
Yeah.
retires for
he
8
hides,
years.
yeah, and then
That's
comes
not
back.
retirement.
Listen, I'm not
quitting.
saying like.
That's like me being like, well,
I'm not saying
I've
that
worked at my record store for 2 years now. Time to
Retire.
retire.
Yeah.
That's not how this
Well,
works.
I think he was just more burdened with guilt and the dealing with his own failures, right? But I think it's just I think for him it wasn't necessarily specifically giving up Batman, but it was like giving up the crusade, like giving up, like moving on from the crusade, moving on from the guilt from his parents and the rage and all those types of things. And he wasn't trying, like he never said, like he wasn't trying to give up Batman for a relationship. He just said when they no longer needed Batman, then he'd be available. You know what I mean? Like so there's a difference there. There is
Like,
a
he said that in
difference there.
Batman. He said that in Batman Begins, but like
Yeah, but it was
like in
also
Dark-
reinforced in the Dark Knight.
I feel like in the Dark Knight it was definitely more of like he's like, oh well, Harvey clearly can take on this crusade. Hey Rachel, you available? And she's like,
Well, his
she's
point
with
his
Harvey.
point was if again if Gotham no longer needs Batman, and he felt with Harvey there, Gotham no longer need Batman. Like that was the linchpin in his whole idea, right?
And then she's happily in this relationship with Harvey,
Yeah,
and he's like,
kind of a
but
jealous.
Rachel,
He's kind
you
of
should.
a jealous dick though sometimes too, right?
When was Harvey a jerk?
Not
Except
Harvey.
For that one time
Bruce.
he was. Oh, yeah, no, Bruce was. But that's the problem, and that's again where at the end of the day, I love Christian Bale's performance, but I don't like it, and I like those movies well enough, but I just don't feel they're good Batman movies. I just think they're good movies, but as soon as you're looking at them for the lens of Batman, that's where it kind of gets lost. And there's nothing wrong. Like adaptations like that happen all the time. You can have a good movie that can be a bad adaptation, and that's fine. At the end of the day, my problem is when people in the comic book industry started taking those movies as gospel and then changing the comics to be more like the movies.
See,
That's what I
to
had a
me,
problem
yeah,
with.
no, I can agree with that because here's the thing: I have a problem. I do disagree generally with like what you're saying. Like, if you're not going to be at the core of who this character is in the comics, don't write that. Write a different character, right? And I think there's a lot of things.
Well, I guess I take back that comment
Because-
too because I
because-
came to that conclusion on my own.
Right,
Where
because like what I'm saying, like again, you're going into a different medium, and you can't bring literally
Yeah.
everything with you. But at the core, like there's all those still. It's like it'd be different if like Bruce Wayne's parents didn't die. He just decided to go on like a kick at like rampage, and he was an emo punk. You know what I mean? Like then we're not talking about Batman anymore. But so many of the core elements of Batman and who he is and what makes him are in those films, and not every single little thing. But difference, and those to me aren't complete recreations but adaptations, because also the character has to serve the story, right? Like the character has to, whatever story comes up with, whatever the creators come up with for like this is our narrative, this is what we're going with, is the characters have to serve that. They can't be like, oh, but in the comics he wouldn't necessarily do that, like because this is a different rendition of that character. So I definitely disagree with that point, but I agree with you in the fact that saying then taking those characters from the film and trying to shove them into the comics is also a no bueno, because again,
Well,
it doesn't work. They're different mediums, and they need to be different interpretations of this legend, right, of this character.
it's even little things like design. Like I'm over armored Batman at this point. I don't need to have him in plate armor yeah, that's cool. It worked for Dark Knight, but like, it doesn't look that good on paper.
No, like
It
it
doesn't look as
definitely
good.
not.
Like,
No, I hear that.
but they, but they, that's the way they went because hey, but it's realistic and we got to do what the movie says because look at the movie's making us all this money,
And yeah, the movie.
and I think that's a problematic idea.
And like again, yeah, it depends your angle. And for those Nolan films, it was
It made
it was
sense.
yeah, because it was more of like, what if Batman
Well,
was real? Like how would we
and
tackle this if this was grounded reality? Because in grounded reality, Batman wouldn't be rolling around with like this like
in black rubber.
exactly like this thin tight outfit,
Well, like
that like easily clearly could get punctured, you know.
they make the thing is too is like it wasn't super bad in the first two Tim Burton Batman movies because like they didn't really address what the costume was made
Yeah.
of. We all knew it was rubber. We have eyes. We
can
know it's
see.
we can
We
see
can
the painted
say.
abs. But then specifically in Batman Forever, one of the characters refers to it as black rubber, and it's like I don't think he'd be wearing rubber because that would be just really like that wouldn't breathe. He'd overheat and like it wouldn't stop bullets at all.
Wouldn't know.
Like
And bat
it's one of those
nipples.
things
You're
of like
what is going on?
man, the bat nipples. I guess if he chafes, maybe it's a thing to have there.
guess
So
so.
it's like just in case he gets cold.
Yeah.
Which again, it wouldn't make sense because it's black rubber. You're gonna be sweating.
Yeah.
If you're somehow getting perky nipples during like wearing a bat suit like that,
You got
need to
problems,
go and
man.
See a doctor.
And if your nipples are like that big that you need them built into your outfit, they really expand and get.
I'm sensitive about this. Just get some nipple tape. Get some pasties.
Well, that's
You'll be
exactly
fine.
it, right? Like, oh, the nipple
But, like-
chafing, the nipple chafing, just never
Yeah, I was just
stops. Once
thinking
it
this-
starts, it never stops.
Thinking the same thing. But like, but that's where to me it's like. Again, I made and like I liked that. I liked in Batman Begins specifically that they had a bit of an explanation.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh, this is kind of how things work. But then I felt like in Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, they took it way too far with like, again, Batman's detective work where it's like, you're gonna contaminate the crime scene. I'm gonna take this chunk of wall here. Get a bullet fingerprint thing, and like it's like, okay, Bat, that's not really great.
You know what?
Not really
I watched.
good detective
I
work.
watched
but-
that scene once, and I was like, oh, that's how it works. That makes sense. That's how we got the fingerprint. And then I've watched it again a couple times, and I'm like, how did I think this makes sense? I'm very confused how that fingerprint actually showed up. Like he scanned the he scanned the fragments and recreated them. Cool. So why did he have to also shoot bullets into other cylinders? Like I was just very not.
Also,
I mean,
why did he
I'm
have
not
to
a
take
ballistics
the
expert,
wall?
so he could match it up to the other bullet that he shot. But then again, the other
he just
bullet that
scan the wall?
That's what like. Couldn't he just?
He has
could-
wall scanning technology.
Even if he took that piece of concrete from the wall, couldn't he have just scanned that and recreated it from that and got the fingerprint? How did he still get the fingerprint from the piece of wall that he shot that the fingerprint wasn't on? Like, I don't understand how that part connects. Unless he was like, oh, if I shoot this way, or maybe he was figuring out what the bullet was, but then why would it? Anyway, it
the thing,
literally, like, that scene to me was like, I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Like, you get what's happening, but you're like, I'm still not sure how you got the fingerprint though. Because like, to me, you shouldn't need to shoot another piece of brick to get the scan. Like, if you shoot another piece of brick, cool. Now we know what bullet it is. But if you couldn't tell what bullet it is, or the computer couldn't figure it out, how's it figuring out a fingerprint? Like, that to me just doesn't make sense. Like, we can
Whose fingerprint is
we can
this?
figure out.
It's
we can't
mine.
Figure out
Oh
what
no,
bullet they
I
used.
committed the crime.
Yeah. Like I was just so confused. Like we couldn't figure out what bullet we used, but the fingerprint, we figured that one out. The computer figured that out. I was just, maybe someone can explain to me. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I saw
I
that
think that's
film
where-
so many times in theaters, like 8, 10, 11, and I was like ridiculous. To the fact that, well, you know, it's like I pretty much had everything memorized by the time Halloween
yeah.
showed up. Like it was ridiculous. But but I still have no idea what's going on in that scene. I don't understand the specific. Like, I get what you're trying to do to get the fingerprint. I'm not sure about the process though. It's like in math when you have to show the work, and they're like, "I see how you got to this number, but no idea what the process is. What were you doing here? You got the correct number, but I'm not sure how." You know, that's what it felt
and
like
that's
to
where
me.
I
I was like, "I'm not having a job. I don't know what's going on." I don't know.
I think we can both agree the most compelling stuff with that is the Joker stuff, which I think is good. And like I think Heath Ledger did an
Yeah,
amazing performance.
yeah, it was real good.
But to me that's the most compelling part of the movie is anything with him. And I feel like you could have whittled down a lot of the Dark Knight to maybe like a half hour less.
The villain's
I
really,
think
yeah,
there
the
is.
villain really was like he was the standout in that film.
Well, then they kind of just shoehorned Harvey in there at the very end, and I'm like, he should have just been his own
Yeah,
film.
no, he had his own character. I mean, they could have kept him alive, I guess.
That's what I mean. Like he should have.
But
Like it's one
his
of those things of
character arc
like
was good, but it was just like, but then it ended. You know, like it didn't continue on.
that's what I mean. Like they should have kept Two Face. I mean, not Harvey.
Yeah,
I'm talking just
yeah,
specifically Two Face. They should have kept for
the third one.
the third movie. I think that would have been.
I guess at the time
It
they
would have
didn't
been
know
interesting.
Joker was gonna die because I'm pretty sure Joker was I'm pretty sure Heath Ledger was supposed like the original plan to still be in
Yeah.
there. I don't know if he'd still be the main villain, but
And then also rewatching Dark Knight Rises was just hilariously not great.
I don't mind the movie overall. I think it has some really some real crippling flaws. Crippling flaws.
I think it does.
Dude, I love Bane's voice. It's like what like after I was done the Joker impressions and that movie came out, that was my next impression. I just spent so much time
But like,
just like mastering. Except I'm not a big buff white guy, so it doesn't really
here's the difference.
doesn't really always go.
The Joker impression is fun because it's a good thing to impersonate, and it's fun and it's kind of creepy and it's terrifying. Bane is hilarious to do.
Yeah, I like doing it. I
That's
just
just-
like doing it. It's just fun.
Oh, yes, I wondered what the breakfast. Oh, reclaim your city. The people. Oh, yes. No.
I was like, I
Actually,
just
no,
totally forgot the lines. What's the line?
Completely unrelated.
It'll be
Have you ever seen?
for you. For you.
Did you ever watch Beast Wars?
Yes,
Beast
back in the
like,
day.
Have you ever seen the supercut of Megatron
Optimus
saying yes and no?
Primal? No, I haven't.
It's amazing because it's yes, yes, no, yes. Like I'll find it. I'll send you a link, and it's
Okay.
the funniest thing. Yes,
Yes.
no.
It doesn't matter who we
Yes.
are. What matters is our plan.
What does that even mean? What are you talking about?
I plan to destroy Gotham. Reclaim your city.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm not trying to.
I don't know, man. I liked Bane. I
people.
liked Bane. It worked for me. I was like, this is pretty cool. This is pretty fun.
I liked Bane, and then he was someone's lackey, and then I'm like, ah.
Okay, you got that point. I like Bane pre-Lackey Bane. Also pre just shot by Catwoman on a bike Bane. That was pretty.
No guns,
like,
no
he
killing, but
was-
let me put
he
guns on
was,
all my
like,
things.
So incredibly intimidating, and then it was just like,
Pop, pop, he's
yeah.
gone.
And then like, oh, I just had to punch his air hoses off his face. Okay, cool. No, I thought it was fun. Now you have my permission to die. There's a lot of fun things in there. But I mean, like, again, like, I'm just enjoying the character. Like, to me, in the first film, Batman was the standout. I think Christian Bale did it, like, and he did excellent in
Oh, yeah.
all the films. Like, his acting was very good. It wasn't, like, the faults of the third one weren't on Christian Bale.
Have you ever seen a bad performance by Christian Bale?
Not really, no. He's pretty top. He's
Exactly.
pretty top notch.
Like,
He's pretty top notch.
He's been in bad movies, but his
Performances are
performances in them are
generally pretty
amazing.
top notch. A very, very talented actor. And that's why he keeps obviously getting roles. And obviously he dives really deep into his characters. Like he's a very extreme actor. Like it's a
But
reason
like
why
in the
he's good.
nicest way possible.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those extreme actors who isn't like a jerk about it. Where it's like,
Well, that one time he
you know,
lost his
Jer-
crap on some guy, but that was. That
he's-
guy's probably
that-
messing
that-
around.
That's been resolved. They all
We moved
apologize.
on.
He's good friends with
We
them.
moved on, but
like, he actually,
but in the first,
like, he-
in the first film, right? Like, and Liam Neeson was great as like Ra's al Ghul or Ra's as Al Ghul, as they say in that film. And it's the League of Shadows. the League of Assassins. But anyway, just those are little
Because we
things.
can't say assassins for some reason.
Those are little
Okay.
things. I thought Batman was a standout character in that one. Like that's really what stuck out because that was his first role, first take on Batman. And you're like, damn, this is pretty sweet compared to like, because George Clooney was just before that, and Val Kilmer before that. Like he didn't have a high bar to get over. You know what I mean with his
Mhm.
impression. So we're like, God damn, that's a sick Batman. And like the whole, it was a very original take on it at the time, right? Like really grounded, gritty take on it. Um, and then once you get to The Dark Knight, it's like, hey, we've already seen Batman, so it's not as impressive. But now you have Heath Ledger's Joker, which is like, oh my god, this is the next big thing. Like it was amazing. And then by the time you get to Dark Knight Rises, again, we've already seen Batman. So like for me, like Bane was just impressive. Like he was just a force. He was just a force. And then they wrote him to be a little someone's bitch. You know what I mean? But before that, he was just a force in that film. And I enjoyed the characters because I think what made those characters so iconic for that rendition of Batman is they all had these little things that made them iconic. Like we can do a Bane impression because that was it. I like iconic kind of take on it, or it's very unique. All these characters were very unique and they stood out so much further than like the regular normal life background. And I don't know. I think that's probably one of the things that made it work because it was kind of grounded in
mean-
somewhat reality, but these characters stood like almost apart from that, right? Like it made them stand out even more because they were more excessive. I don't know what the right word is.
I guess, but at the same time, I could say the exact same thing about the villains that are in the older Batman movies too, like Jack Nicholson's Joker.
I just broke my pen. This is a travesty. Oh.
Are you inking all over the place?
No, I broke like the clip part.
Oh, that's okay. That's not as dramatic.
Oh man, I hate breaking my pens. I'm I'm really into pens. I really like my pens, man. Like I just
Just changing the topic as soon as I'm going into a good point, and you're just trying to derail me
no,
by
I'm
breaking
not.
your
It just broke. It just broke. But no, but you're not wrong about Jack Nicholson's Joker. He was
Danny DeVito's
also,
Penguin.
Okay, Danny DeVito's Penguin though was pretty greasy.
Oh, but
was
that's the thing is
pretty
like,
greasy.
but he's still great and quotable and memorable. Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman.
But I'm not
Amazing.
saying there. I'm not saying that
Um,
in comparison to the other Batman films. You know what I mean? I was just
in comparison to Batman
I
Begins.
was just saying in comparison to like that trilogy, like you had three kind of almost not leading characters but standout characters in each film. Because sometimes you can go into a sequel and no characters stand out any more or less than the others. But in these ones, you had three standout characters, one kind of for each film, with iconic and very unique performances. And I think
Well,
that's why I stood out.
in hindsight, that's what bugs me about Batman Begins a bit is that Scarecrow didn't stand out more.
He didn't. No, he was
I
very
like- I-
background. Yeah.
But his performance was
Yeah.
great. Like the actor was great, but like he could have been more Scarecrow and less guy with bag on his head.
Yeah.
Right? And it's I don't know. I want to see like a decent interpretation of him live action. That would be kind of dope. But like again, like the villains have always been handled really well in Batman films, but I think it comes down to like just how well those characters work regardless of interpretation. Like
Yeah, in general,
it's- because even if you want to look at like the worst villain the worst villain interpretation is Bane.
yeah, in Batman and
in
Robin,
100% because they just made him the Hulk.
horrendous, man. They made him a moron.
What's honestly
even like it.
the perfect Bane is right in the middle of like looks like that, acts like closer to the Bane in
He's a beast, but
Rises.
he's a strategist. The best interpretation of Bane, not necessarily like iconic or like overly like memorable, I guess. Like I guess he is memorable, but like not I don't know, there's no real big standout features. Like he's just a big dude in a mask. But like the character of Bane in Batman Arkham Origins was like really spot on. I mean, at the end they pumped him full of like this Venom stuff, and he became a big kind of moron. Kind of like
that's the video game.
yeah, like he
though, right?
transformed kind of into like Bane from, earlier, or Batman and Robin type-ish Bane. But like before that, he was huge. He was a beast, but he was really, really smart, and he was a huge threat in that game. Like, and you felt the presence of that threat, and I think that was like the perfect combination of big and like just massive, but also real smart.
Seeing and for me, going back to the other villains and stuff like that too, like even looking at, if you want to look at any of the Joel Schumacher era villains, you need to look at them through the lens of the Adam West show, because if you put any of those interpretations of the Riddler, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, or Mr. Freeze into
Adam West Batman,
they're suddenly really compelling in the Adam West world.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Mr. Freeze, out of all those ones, Mr. Freeze and the Riddler are the only two who show up in that show. And the Riddler is very close, actually. Like Jim Carrey's performance is very reminiscent of Frank Gorshin's performance of the Riddler. It is very Jim Carrey, but like you can see similarities. Yeah. Mr. Freeze arguably is more compelling in Batman and Robin than he is in that TV show, and that's because they gave him the Mr. Freeze's backstory from the animated show
with Nora,
which just elevated that character so much. And honestly, Arnold didn't do a bad job. The problem is definitely the script and how he was directed.
Yeah, and like the campiness of the film, right? Like, and
100%. It's a toy commercial.
We're not saying these guys can't act either, because you look at who's playing them, and it's all like great
Chris O'Donnell
actors,
can act.
Like George Clooney, like.
George Clooney can act, otherwise he wouldn't have a career at this point.
He's an amazing, amazing
right?
actor. Yeah, like they all are very, very talented, but it was just it was the concept behind the film, right? That film was like, yeah,
it was a toy
it was
commercial.
hurt. It was gonna crap the bed from day one. Like the concept and the idea of it was problematic. Even when you look at Batman Forever, which is still better than Batman and Robin, but still has some considerable like bat nipples for showing up. But like Jim Carrey did fine. Tommy Lee Jones just had a great time with his life.
But the problem is they directed it more like the Joker if he was Two-Face.
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of what happened there. Yeah.
But he's still fun.
Also, even though it's the same universe, Harvey Dent went from being black to white, which is pretty funny. Because it was Lando Calrissian there.
I can't remember what happened. I don't remember if
just
they
actor
chose to fire
change
him
or
he
whatever
stepped
they
away.
decided to do.
But either way,
Billy D.
And they brought him back to voice him in like one of the Lego movies, though.
Yeah.
And then, have you seen the animated Adam West movies at all, or no?
No.
So they did 2 animated Adam West movies that are sequels to the TV show. And the first one is fun and just kind of wild. Because you end up, basically they ended up cloning Batman a bunch, and he just kind of goes crazy on like this like trying to control Gotham thing. And it's a weird story. But the second one is a Two-Face story, and they got William Shatner to play Two-Face.
Oh man. That would be something.
It's good. I like how this just turned into like a mini rant about Batman. I'm fine with this.
Yeah, or like comic books and heroes and movies in general.
Adaptations.
Work.
I mean, like, again, there's not a lot of movie news to talk about right now.
No, and we can talk about our favorites next episode too. So
that's what I'm thinking. I think it's not a bad idea.
We're already at an hour 45 for this one roughly, so.
Also, I feel like we've already touched a little bit on probably one of your top picks for 2009, Matt.
Which one?
Well, Dark Knight, I'm assuming that's on your list for
2008.
What? Was it? What year is it?
I did see it on Wikipedia. On the Wikipedia list, it's marked as 2009. But it's a 2008 film. Because it came out the summer of 2008.
Did it come out? I know Iron Man did.
Because that's who I went as Halloween. In Halloween of 2008. Because that was their grade 12 year.
Okay. And then we graduated in
2009,
2009. Yeah. Weird. Why was that on Wikipedia?
I don't know. Maybe it came out in certain regions or had a like possible re-release in theaters.
Well then, Matt, I guess we talked about 2 weeks from now. We've already covered that.
Yeah,
so,
pretty much, right?
It's okay. I got a doozy for 2008.
Oh, get it. Get it.
But no, with 2009, I got a pretty decent list, and I'm excited to
Yeah, I got some fun ones.
talk about those.
Should we transition over to a question of the day?
I was gonna say, whose question of the day is it first?
I can go first, I guess, if you want.
I don't have one. So
Oh, I got a two-parter.
So Matt, who is your favorite piano key?
Who is your favorite piano key? The black one.
Yep. That's racist, Matt.
It is. It is. And that's the only.
I found he was a little.
Only reason I picked him.
I found he was a little sharp.
Well, the other ones are a little flat. What are you gonna do?
Hey Matt, how you doing? What's the question of the day? That's how we're gonna transition it.
Oh, no.
All right, that was a long-winded random rant about Batman, but
Well, we talked about a lot of movie things today. I think it was.
It turned into a lot of Batman.
Well, kind of at the tail end, I guess, but like it's a feast of films, and sometimes Batman is just part of the feast. Got to get your Batman-O's or whatever they're called.
I've been watching Batman the Animated Series. Got Batman on the brain. I'm fine with
You're
this.
hyped. You're hyped. Nothing wrong with that.
So what's So Matt, what's your question of the day for me? Come on, give me a doozy.
The question of the day is very
Okay,
simple.
giving me a doozy that I can understand.
I wasn't even saying. Just you don't have to say anything. Eh? You're just like.
Oh, yeah.
You need a cup for it.
You need to, if you put it in the cup, you got the good resonance that you need.
It's all about the pitch. It's all about the like. That's all it is. It's just the up and down, the
For
resonance.
you.
I like Tom Hardy as an actor too. He's really good. Anyway,
Oh, he's a great
question
actor.
of the day. It's a two-parter. Some real nice softballs for you because these are kind of fun. Every once in a while, I like to ask like some random question just to keep you on your toes there. So we all know, the world's always kind of divided from one end to the other. There's always Pepsi and Coke. For every one thing there, it's competitor, right? So I have a couple
Yes.
questions on what you prefer to actually, and these are probably the two most important questions humanly possible when it comes to this. So first one, coffee or tea?
You see, that's a good question. Because, like, what context?
Just in general, which do you prefer? Not necessarily which one you drink or don't drink, but which one do you prefer?
It depends on the time of day, at the end of the day. And it depends on my mood. Flavor-wise, 100% tea. I prefer tea over the taste of coffee, 100%. That said, though, I prefer coffee for waking up and tea for before bed. I have more of a history with tea. Like, I can go into the whole detail about, like, why, like, if I had to pick one to just drink for the rest of my life, it would be tea.
Yeah.
Like, that's just because there's, number one, diversity within that tea. Whereas coffee, you can have, like, you can have cold coffee or hot coffee.
Oh, there's a lot of diversity in
Basically,
coffees as well.
It all tastes the same, and anyone who says differently just is trying to be
say
smart.
differently.
I'm looking at
trying
you,
to be
Ben.
Smart.
I'm looking
I'm
at
trying
you.
to be smart.
There's a difference.
But,
Reclaim your beans.
Specifically for me with tea, it just immediately ties my brain back to, like, my granny. And growing up, we always would have
Seems like a
tea
good
with
reason.
some honey in it.
Yeah.
And it's sentimental, and I know it might be a silly reason to pick a favorite beverage, but that's a big one for me of why tea is kind of my go-to. Like, a good steep tea double from Tim's is always great. Orange Pico is probably just my favorite because it's just, to me, it was always plain tea. It was just, that was what tea
I've been
was.
finding Earl Grey is very fun lately.
Earl Grey is good
Yeah.
too.
It's got this like it's it's not the first note, it's the second note of that flavor. That's like, this is interesting. Because I always thought Earl Grey would be very gray. You know what I mean? But it's kind of like gray, but then like a lighter gray that's slightly sweeter. It's kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
I like
And
it.
then
I do.
And then like good fruit tea is always nice
Yeah.
too. Like it's like again, there's diversity within the tea, and I like that. Like works for me with coffee. It's not. I don't find the flavors quite as diversified at the end of the day. But also, I'm not a coffee connoisseur. Like it's not really. I go to Tim's, and then that's basically where I get my coffee, or make it at home.
Yeah.
And like, I'm open. I'm open to different types of coffee. It's just like it's like wine or alcohol. It's just something that doesn't really click with me mentally. Whereas with teas, there's a very distinct flavor between the different.
Sure.
Teas. But then you get into the loose leaf stuff, and that's all just a bunch of weird stuff too.
Yeah, that's my wife. She's like very into David's teas.
I'm a heathen with tea bags still. That's
A heathen with tea
a
bags.
lot of a lot of people don't like tea bags, man.
You sir are a heathen.
It's been said to me several times.
Seems a bit extreme for tea.
I agree, but I drink what I drink. I like what I like.
Oh man, classic.
How about you?
For me, if I had to choose one and only one to exist with, it's coffee. Cause I literally couldn't exist without it. Like tea is okay.
Well,
Like every once in a while I'll have tea in the morning. I'm very much like you. Coffee in the morning, tea usually in the evening, especially when I'm writing. Like it feels right.
It's nice,
yeah,
right?
it feels
Like it's,
nice to like write and have a tea because tea again, it's not as strong or as bold as coffee. So for writing, it just feels more peaceful and like mellow. It just flows better for I don't know whatever reason. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But when it comes to the morning and waking up and existing in the world, not just like being awake, but existing in the world, I need my cup of coffee. And yeah, sometimes I'll go cheap. Sometimes I'll get from Tim. Sometimes I'll usually make it at home. I like have some couple different creamers, which is pretty good. Actually, just for this show, I had a nice coffee there. It was nice. Usually don't have it at night, but I was like, I need a little extra caffeine, a little more
pep to your
pep
step.
in the step to continue pushing through this recording, getting it all done. And I had some Oreo creamer, and I was really concerned about it because my wife bought it. I didn't buy it because I wouldn't have bought it if I saw it. Because I thought it was going to be like really, really, really sweet. And I was going to be like, bleh. Because I hate really, really, really sweet. Like I really enjoy like the darkness and the bitterness of coffee. But it actually turned out to be like more of like the like darker chocolate of the Oreo, not so much like the sugary
The creamy
filling.
center.
It was more of that nice dark chocolate of the actual cookies. So then I was like, oh damn, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. And every once in a while,
Matt likes
every
this.
once in a while, I will do Starbucks. And every once in a while, I will be a basic bitch in the fall and get a pumpkin spice latte
Nothing wrong with
because
that.
it's delicious.
Matt likes his coffee like he likes his Batman, bitter and sad.
I do. I like my characters bitter and sad. I don't know why. It just makes for a more interesting character.
I can never be happy.
I hate my life. And I'm like, dude, I relate. Okay, second question, because this is a two-parter. This is next. So first is coffee and tea. That's incredibly important. Next one, Baby Yoda or Baby Groot. Go. Now this is also very important for the fabric of society. So don't mess it up, man. Don't mess it up.
Like, what kind of context are we just like who I prefer to watch?
I don't know.
Or who do I
What
think
is
is cute?
better, man? Like just you can add your
Like, who win a
context.
fight?
Who would you fight?
Like who would win in a fight? I'd say is Grogu because he's. Like,
I
he's
would
also
just
old.
say like my question is just like who would you prefer? Like if you could only have one of them to watch, which one would you watch?
Oh, Baby Yoda. Like for me, hands down. I don't know why. And again, like I'm an avid like the Mandalorian does not need to rely on Baby Yoda to be a successful show,
Agreed.
but I keep buying the merch
Yeah.
for Baby Yoda, and I don't know why, but I do. And like at the end of the day, there's just something more appealing, and like something that just I resonate with more. And like it's this is gonna be weird. This is gonna be a weird tie-in to the last answer. For some reason, Baby Yoda's face reminds me of my grandparents.
Did
Well,
you
that's an
tell? Did you
automatic
tell them
win.
that? Okay,
Well,
this
no,
is the
like
second time in the same question of the day that you brought up your grandparents, and I think that's some bullshit. That's
that's
cheating.
an
That's
automatic. It's an
that
automatic win
is
for me, man.
cheating.
Like if it reminds me of my grandparents, I'm a sucker for them. I'm just gonna be like, yep,
Oh, you.
sorry, that's the win. That's the win. Is my grandparents. Sorry for loving old people.
Sorry for loving old people. You're a terrible human.
I'm a great human, and that's why I stay in lockdown to protect the old
Man.
people.
Because I love my grandparents. Because they remind me of Baby
Exactly.
Yoda.
Well, it's like if you like Lone Ranger, I have a deep connection with because of my grandparents. Like there are a lot of things I have massive connections with because of them. Like they did help shape who I am. And like a lot of times, especially for the ones who passed away, I regret that I didn't spend more time
Fair
with them.
enough.
But
Yeah.
also I was young.
Yeah.
I was young and I didn't know better, but I know I still did spend time with them. I just wish I would have talked to them more. Like actually like discuss things as opposed to
Well,
just
as a kid too, we don't
watch
always have
TV,
the
but
capacity to even understand what they're talking about, right? Like they could
oh
share
exactly. And
life's
that's
greatest secrets with us, and we'd been like, "But do you have any like sour cream and onion chips? Because I just kind of wanted a chip." You know what I mean? Like we
well and
just we don't have the capacity as kids.
that's the big thing too is I also know they wouldn't want me to feel that
Yeah.
way. They wouldn't want me to feel like I missed out because I know that anytime that they were around me, there was a lot of love and
Yeah.
affection. And
That's what they want you to remember. 100%.
exactly. And like that's where like I know it's a cop out to like pull the grandparents card twice, but like it's straight up like I don't know what it is too. I don't know what it is about Baby Yoda, but just like maybe it's the wrinkly face or just like there's just like I guess also the other thing too, like not related to my grandparents. There's just a lot more when comparing the two characters. There's a more of a life to Baby Yoda than there is to Groot. Groot moves more. He does, but I feel like if they would have done Groot as a physical puppet more, that it would have worked better than the CG. And like the CG works fine. It works and it fits in with the universe perfectly. But the puppet for Baby Yoda for Grogu is just amazing. Like it's phenomenal. And the puppetry is fantastic.
Yeah.
The range of emotion that they even got this last season was amazing.
Yeah.
Like it was just like it I don't want to say it's better handled because like again Baby Groot was like it's the other thing too is like Groot was a good character and Baby Groot was a fun character, but Baby Groot was a fun character in a comedic sense, whereas like Baby Yoda was just a fun character throughout. And I don't know,
There's a lot
more I can just
Yeah. I would agree with you. I would also go with Baby Groot. Not because he reminds me of my grandparents.
Baby Groot or Baby
Yoda. Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda. Not because he reminds me of my grandparents, but he reminds me of my own kid, which is hilarious. Because
that's fair.
And the biggest thing too is because Max was just like he was still pretty small when Mandalorian came out. And like just it was just the motions and the emotions that puppet was able to emote, and the slight movements and just the way Baby Yoda did everything that made him so real. And it reminded me so much of my own baby because I had a baby right there, and this puppet was acting and moving exactly like how exactly how a baby moves. Exactly. When that door opens, like, and it comes down on that first season, and he's like, "Stay here," and then it opens, and he's right there. Where? You're just like, "Oh my god!" But it was just the motion of it all, and yeah, the puppetry goes really far into that. And as a character, he has more range, right? Like he's put in various different situations over the 2 seasons, and maybe that's an advantage because he's also in a TV series, not limited to a movie where he's sharing it with like X amount of other characters. He's very much a central focus of the series. But he was definitely placed in more situations where the character had to react differently, right? There was more emotional range to that character than Baby Groot. And now going back to Baby Groot, I don't think that a puppet would have been better. Like for what they needed him to do in the film, his CGI is 100% right. and he's super funny. Like, I do not hate Baby Groot.
That's why you don't like hats?
Like, exactly, right? Like, that whole scene was so funny. And then you felt so bad for him when they were, like, beating on him. You're like, oh, you buggers. You buggers. Like, Baby Groot was amazing. But, and, like, to be honest, he started the whole baby trend of, like, characters anyway, right? Like, without Baby Groot,
I
I
would
don't know if
disagree.
there'd be Baby Yoda. But, like...
I would say that the Muppet Babies started that.
I would disagree because they were completely irrelevant by the time Baby
highly
Yoda
disagree
showed
with
up.
that.
I would say for some people's memories, they have fond
How
memories.
dare you say that Muppet Babies
if they
are
have
irrelevant?
fond memories of Muppet Babies, then like there's a few people, but like for the masses, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Is it also weird that like old people and babies babies remind me of old people?
It's because they're very similar. They are.
They
Yeah, we kind of go back.
cry and poop and don't like this generation.
We kind of go back to where we started. It's a full circle.
The circle of life, if you
In
will.
the circle of life. Anyway, yeah, no, that's fun. Those are just questions today. I don't know. It's just I'm like,
Those are, they
that's
were
some
fun. I
random
like
fun
'em.
questions. Then you're just like, everything reminds
has
me
been
of my
a-
grandma. And I'm like, God damn it, Ethan,
Sorry for having feelings and emotions.
you suck.
Well, so I guess that's probably it for today's
Yeah, I
episode.
think so.
Just because
Yeah.
this has been a really random ride of an episode, but I've had lots.
It was a
of fun.
ride. We didn't even know where it was going. We're just like, take us away. Fates.
Do we know where we're going
Fates
next
of
time, Matt?
films. We do. Whether we get there or not.
We're going to
who knows?
2009. I think we'll get there.
Probably. Yeah.
Where can the good people find you, Matt?
You can find me on my YouTube channel, which I just launched this month. It's been a very, very busy month with that. It's called Storytellers for Life. The link is going to be down below. You can head down there, find it. It's all about reigniting your dreams, live your purpose, tell your stories. We go through a lot of different content where it's about, kind of inspiration, motivation. We're going through teaching, different storytelling tools that you'll get, and we're working on building a community right now. So come on by, share your stories. We'll have a great time. You can find me at Twitter at Storytellers for capital L. Find me on Facebook at Storytellers for Life, Twitch at Storytellers for Life Live, which you pointed out last episode. I should have totally done Storytellers for Live, which would have been like way better. And I'm like,
Is it too late to
damn
change
it,
the name?
It is. But
Make a new account. It's fine.
I don't want to. I already started streaming. But there we're streaming gaming's
fair.
best stories. So it's a pretty fun medium to look at stories. But yeah, that's it. Come on by. Hang out. If you probably tired of hanging out with me right now, so maybe not immediately, but give it a couple days. Where can the good people find you, good sir?
I'm at Ethan R. Hill on Instagram. I'm also Ethan R. Hill on YouTube. And you can also find my film Damned Rights at realhouse.org. You can buy it, rent it, download it, stream it, all the fun things. Go watch it, support me, check it out. Try not to hate me after you watch it. Depends on who watches it, I guess. I don't know.
I
I
hate
like
you.
it. I know. I showed
I
Matt.
hate you.
He punched me in the face. He's like, "How dare you make a movie that is just like
He's
this?"
like, I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Just kidding.
I
It was
like
fun.
my
It was
movie.
fun.
It's a fun time, and you know what? I made a feature film, and not many people
You
can
know
say
what?
that.
That's
so.
the thing. That's the thing. There you go.
Exactly. Well, I think that's it for this episode of A Feast of Films. I'm Ethan R. Hill, and with me, as always, is
Matthew Ayalew.
We'll see you all next week when we talk about 2009.
So long.
It's a good time. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.
Toodaloo.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Free your city.
To the people.